Saturn will be ingressing, which means entering Aries starting May 24th, 2025. And this is a major shift beginning a brand new 29-year cycle for all of us, including you on the personal level. This is an all signs forecast, but Saturn will be in Aries for around 2.5 years, give or take some. And if we're considering the retrogrades and the shadow periods and things like that. But so within this, there will be many other videos coming about all the different aspects down the line, because there will be some very big aspects, including some similar to massive ones we've seen in history with Saturn conjuncting Neptune, that will get its very own video. All I can say is it's all I can say is it's a very exciting time, and we are entering a collective new era. This isn't just a moment, it's truly a multi-year karmic restructuring for both your life and for the society. Saturn in Aries brings long-term themes of independence, courage, identity, leadership, action, initiation. It is a fiery energy combining with the energy of responsibility, karma, authority, structure. And sometimes that requires the collapsing and breaking down of structure in order to build anew. Saturn, the planet that represents authority and time and discipline and responsibility and commitment, is meeting Aries, which is ruled by the god of war and first of all the zodiac signs, and is fiery and acts before it thinks, and is independent and courageous. And so this energy is truly, truly a very interesting energy, and it will be coming into your life. Now, where Saturn in your chart is impacting, brings all of this energy that we're talking about into place. And the more further you are away from how Saturn, the authority figure, the ruler of karma, ruler of structure, responsibility, the further you are from what you're supposed to be doing, the more work Saturn has to do to collapse the false things in your life, to teach you responsibility, lessons, and structure. And then Saturn loves to reward discipline, loves to reward your commitment to truth, to self, to commitment itself, and loves to bring that in. So because of that, there is a karmic restructuring energy within your own life that Saturn is paying attention to. And, you know, along this long Saturn transit, depending on where you are, you might be feeling more of this collapsing and restructuring and lesson, or you could be more at the part of the rewarding of the lesson, rewarding of the hard effort, or the tests, where after you've learned the lesson, Saturn sometimes sends tests to see if you've really learned it, and then at the very end, the reward. And you'll see this within your own transit. Okay, I jumped right into it without any other welcomes. If you're new here, I would love it if you subscribed. It means a lot to me. It helps out the channel so much, and it keeps me motivated to post more videos and post more frequently. And it just really helps me out. Feel free also to comment. I truly love reading them. I read every single one. I'm a bit slow with responding because sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed with work and readings and things like that. But I do eventually always do respond, and I read every single one as soon as you post them. So thank you so much. It helps me out, and it feels great to read. Also, if you're new here, every 4 videos, I pull a winner to win a free 60-minute reading with me. All you have to do is subscribe and comment, and any other comment after you subscribe counts as an additional entry. Last week, I just pulled the last winner. We're getting their reading done with me. I mean, next week, I think. And I will pull a winner every 4-ish videos, which tends to be every 4-ish weeks to 8-ish and a half weeks. Anyway, if you want to subscribe, don't forget to subscribe and comment below. I just lost about 6 minutes of video. I feel like mics like this, where it's so easy to accidentally tap the on-off button, should be banned. But here we go. I'm not sure, honestly, all that was lost, but basically Saturn is Saturn transits, people fear them a lot because Saturn brings lessons, Saturn breaks down false structures, Saturn likes to teach you things, and Saturn makes you answer for your karma. And Saturn is the authority figure, and so in some cases Saturn can slow things down, bring restriction, etc. But actually, especially, I mean, it depends on your chart exactly how Saturn will hit, the energy Saturn brings to you, etc. But overall, by the end of where Saturn goes through, especially if you listen to the lessons it brings up and you work with the Saturnian energy, Saturn will upgrade your life. Now, I don't know if I said it in the part that didn't cut off, but listen, Saturn in Aries, big effing deal. Saturn will later be aspecting Neptune. Crazy, crazy deal. People are talking about it aspecting in conjunction from now. Honestly, it's going to be in a tighter conjunction in July, and it won't be in pure 0-degree conjunction until February. So this is something that's going to get its own video, but it's going to not just change your life, but also change the collective. It's a really big deal. And a Saturn Neptune conjunction, especially in Aries, is one that has literally changed the world whenever it's happened. So even in the next year, society is going to start to look very, very different because of what we're seeing. And, Nostradamus and his predictions, Nostradamus was actually an astrologer, and a lot of advanced astrologers believe that they've cracked the code of Nostradamus's predictions, and that a lot of the timing to fully understand it, you have to look as the code of Saturn being in Aries. And whenever Saturn enters Aries, marks a big time for that. The last few weeks, Saturn has been passing through the critical degree of Pisces until May 24th when it ingresses into Aries. The critical degree is the anaretic degree, the final degree, the 29th degree, which means that the themes of the last 2.5 years have been like testing you. For some people, if you've listened to the lessons, they've been bringing a reward in that part of your life. For other people, it's been culminating the energy, almost like a ghost haunting, to really hound that lesson in. And for other people, sorry, I'm still sick, it's been testing to see if you've learned the lesson. Now, here's the thing. These lessons, tests, whatever, for wherever Saturn has been in your chart and while it's been in Pisces the last 2.5 years, they're not done. That's because in July, after Saturn entered Aries in May, in July, Saturn will go retrograde. So because of this, it will go all the way back into Pisces, and then it will go all the way again into Aries, which means it will pass over the anaretic or the critical degree 3 times. So this is a big deal. That basically means that all of you are going to be revisiting those themes. And each time it does, it'll be hovering over this critical degree kind of for a while. And you would have experienced what that feels like, in the last few weeks. So the big dates for you to remember: May 24th, Saturn will enter Aries for the first time since around 1996, 1999. Around July 13th or 14th, Saturn will go retrograde in Aries. Around September 1st or 2nd, Saturn's retrograde will take it back into Pisces, where it'll pass over the anaretic or critical degree. And then on November 27th-ish, end of November, Saturn will finally end retrograde and station direct, and this will be in Pisces, and it'll be beyond the critical degree. Then it will start its forward motion again. By the end-ish of January, Saturn will once again activate the critical degree, and then around February 13th or 14th, Valentine's Day, wink wink, 2026, Saturn will re-enter Aries for the long haul. Saturn will get very close in a tight conjunction to Neptune in July. And then Saturn will be in exact conjunction with Neptune at exactly 0 degrees of Aries on around the end of February 2026, which is a major, major worldwide generational event. Big deal. Like I said, Saturn being close to Neptune is a rare once in a century cycle shift. These are truly generation defining and world changing transits. And we're going to explore that deeper in a video. Now, you're going to want to watch my November 2024 video on Saturn direct in Pisces, because it's still extremely relevant, because we'll be seeing this back and forth phase, of Saturn, changing back into Pisces and passing over the critical degree a few times and being in retrograde. And so this will help explain the energies even for the next few months. I will link that video in the comment section and also in the description below. Okay, so now we're going to go through each rising sign to explain what house Saturn is moving into, what karmic lessons, responsibilities, restructuring, and boundaries to expect, why this is a long-term energetic shift and not a day of event. The other thing I want to say too is depending how far you are away from the lessons Saturn wants to teach you, the harder the lessons it will teach you are going to be. And the more you listen to Saturn and apply that Saturnian energy to that way of your life, the more Saturn is actually going to reward you, especially when it goes through some of these big degrees, aspects, etc. So I like to think of it as trademark Phoenician Priestess. If you hear anyone else say this, it came from me. Reckoning versus reward. So Saturn either is going to bring you reckoning, or it's going to bring you a reward, or it's going to start with a reckoning and end with a reward. So when you go through your sign by signs, just keep that in mind. Now, last thing, just make sure to prioritize listening to your ascendant or your rising sign first, and then listen to your sun, and then listen to your moon. Since this is a general reading, listening to all three can also help in terms of, getting the message that you need to. But the Saturn cycle is no joke, and to really understand where it's going to be shaking up your life for the next 2.5 plus, 3-ish, honestly, with the energy years, and where in your identity and your purpose and your relationships and your career or in your healing, or depending where in your chart it's restructuring beyond just basic astrology, then you can always book a one-on-one session with me. Actually, a lot of the readings that I've been doing the last 2 weeks, and the ones I have lined up for the next 10-ish days already, a lot of the people coming, they don't know it until we're looking at them and I'm explaining in their chart. But a lot of the stuff that's bringing them is the way Saturn has been activating and upheavaling their lives, because it's been at the critical degree or anaretic degree point, and because it's going through an ingression soon. That's, I cannot say this enough, massive, massive energy, especially for those of you. I mean, depending on where it's hitting your chart, it can be more massive than others. But without seeing a lot of people's chart, if those of you actually have Saturn in Aries, it means you're going through your Saturn return, and that is one of life's very biggest events, truly. And those of you who have Saturn in Pisces, you're ending your return, but it's not fully ending. It's still going to be active until February. These are life-changing moments. I almost believe that a lot of people truly do not grow into themselves, or don't have even the opportunity to, until their first Saturn return. So if you need support with any of that, you can book a personal session with me if you want to dive into that, your Saturn placement, transit, karmic patterns, blocks, and we can also do tarot guidance and intuitive downloads, and all of that you can get with the booking link in my bio. Okay, let's jump into the all signs. Sorry if this was fast. It was coming from my frustration at having to speak again and an incredibly tight schedule. Okay, catch your readings. Hello, Aries. Aries rising, suns and moons. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. For you, Aries, this is a really big deal because it is going into your sign, activating your first house of self, embodiment, leadership, personal authority, looks, in some senses as well, your body, but not in like the health sense as much, and how you carry yourself and how you are perceived in the world and how you perceive the world. Be sure to watch the intro if you've skipped it, because Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces this year, so it's important to understand the bigger cycle and the timeline by watching the intro. I'll relink a very important Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description and comments. It's still relevant, and it's going to be relevant until February 2026. So it'll give you insight more into this back and forth energy. For you, Aries, the past few weeks, with Pisces, with Saturn being at the critical degree of Pisces, you've likely felt very tired, emotionally heavy, spiritually disoriented in recent weeks. You've likely maybe been isolating a lot. Some of you have been, old subconscious patterns have been coming up, ancestral burdens coming up, endings, exhaustion. You could have felt like you've been stuck in a past that you're done with and a future you're not yet sure how to step into. And I want to say too that this is the first of 3 times that Saturn will pass this critical point. So themes of letting go, completion, and inner karmic work are not all the way done yet. But for those of you who are at the story arc of reward from learning Saturn's lessons, you could finally be reaping the rewards of getting through all of this. You could be reaping the rewards of getting in control of your emotional and mental health, of exploring that, allowing that, healing that the last 2.5 years. You could be reaping the rewards of getting into a spiritual routine, spiritual regimen, the last 2.5, 3 years, of developing a spiritual connection, of having a spiritual awakening, of standing up to things that you believe in, of connecting more with your intuition, with spirit, of spending more time with yourself, of learning to love your inner mind and your inner world and the higher realms, of prayer, of all of these things. Depending on where you are, you could be at that, like that, the last few weeks could have brought rewards there, or final tests when it came to that. Well, now Saturn is moving into Aries, which for you means that the next 2 to 2.5 years are about a time to step into a new identity, but not without the effort. For a lot of people too, I've seen when Saturn transits the first house, a lot of people tend to lose weight or to get serious about their self-care routines, get serious about their looks, maybe do a glow up, a level up. They tend to lose weight because where Saturn goes, it also sometimes brings restriction. And when you put that in the first house, which I said is about appearance and body, it can make people lose weight. This next 2 to 2.5 years is going to also be for you to learn independence if you haven't already. It's a maturation of your self-concept. It's going to ask you to define, I call it like your I am, your creed. You're going to want to understand that, redefine that, revisit that, and see if you're embodying that. And this is going to impact everything from your physical body to your image, to your confidence, to your boundaries, to your purpose, to your independence. You're being asked to take yourself seriously, to show up with more discipline, to refine your leadership energy, and to take control of your path. Some of you could experience physical fatigue or body tension because Saturn can also bring somatic pressure when it's here in this part of the chart. Some of you could be starting new health routines or new responsibilities around your fitness, like I said, or your appearance. Some of you may need to slow down and build something real instead of chasing fast wins because Saturn often asks us to slow down. Some of you could be experiencing loneliness or seriousness that actually pushes you to become more self-sourced and aligned. Some of you could be shedding an impulsive or naive version of your identity, and Saturn could be here to try and teach you that it's time to grow up and lead. This transit is really about becoming the master of your own life, yourself, who you are, your boundaries, your independence. But if you're out of balance and you're using hyper-independence as a shield, Saturn will also teach you not to do that. Saturn is also here to teach you not to wait for others, to validate yourself, to grow more confident in yourself, to stop hiding where you've been hiding, to stop shielding yourself, to start cowering in fear. If you've been doing that, you are in Aries rising. If you're in Aries rising, you've probably not been doing that as much as maybe other Aries placements. So Saturn is here to teach you a lot of amazing things and lessons in that way. You're going to be very different. Your friends will notice if someone saw you before this transit at the end, they will notice a difference in who you are. Your whole aura at the end of this is going to be different. And overall, for you, this is about you becoming the master of your life and not waiting for others, really, again, to save you. If you want more detail on how to prepare for this, especially with all the different back and forth that Saturn's making, and to understand how it's activating your chart, you can always book a one-on-one reading with me, and we can go very, very deep. So drop a comment, Aries, if you're already feeling this, or if you have any questions about what's coming. I read all the comments, even if I can be a bit slow at responding. Okay, thanks. And don't forget to listen to your other sun, moon, or rising, depending on what this was for you. Hello, Taurus, suns, moons, and risings. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. Saturn is entering Aries on May 24th, bringing massive new activations for the next 2.5-ish plus years for you. If you skipped the intro, go back and watch it because Saturn is going to be retrograding back into Pisces. So you're not going to want to miss what that means because it's a lot of very big things. I'll also be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description and comments. And it's crucial to understand the context of the energy you're feeling now and that you'll feel again in September and in January of 2026, September of 2025. Now for you, Taurus, the last few weeks with Saturn hovering over the critical or anaretic degree in Pisces may have felt like a social shedding, like you've been, even the last 2.5 years, it would have amplified the lessons of the last 2.5 years of community, of friendship, of where you belong, your individuality versus your place in the society, even your dreams, things like this. For some, it could have felt like a loss of friendship, loss of community, or deep disillusionment with certain friendships or dreams. For others, if you're at the reward place, you would have actually felt coming at felt the light at the end of the tunnel of this. You could have felt like, okay, finally, after the last 2.5 years, I feel a sense of home. I feel a sense of belonging. I have great friends. I've met new amazing friends. I've joined a new amazing club. I found my place, etc. So depending on where you are, I always say the reckoning or the reward when it comes to Saturn. Trademark Phoenician Priestess for that, then you'll be feeling this, you would have been feeling this energy a bit differently. You could have been questioning your place in the collective, your hopes for the future, your dreams that you may have abandoned, or felt like you no longer resonate with people around you. You could have been really, really feeling like, I want my soul tribe. And just to say again that this is the first of 3 passes that Saturn will make around on the anaretic degree. So expect a continued long-term wiring of your vision and networks, even though Saturn will be moving into Aries. Now, when Saturn moves into Aries on May 24th, before it goes back into Pisces in September, this is going to trigger for you actually a more inward phase than you've been in the last 2.5 years. This transit is deeply karmic, and often it may seem at first invisible on the surface, but it is truly life-altering beneath. Saturn in the 12th house, especially in a sign like Aries, can really look like a spiritual awakening that you're going to undergo. You may already be feeling it. You might not feel it until a little bit into this transit, but that's going to be a very big thing for you. It can also bring up past things that you need to heal that you've been ignoring the healing of. It could bring up past traumas, fears, wounds, limiting beliefs that you've learned that you've kept in your system that have been building up like a pressure wanting to explode. It can cause you to confront hidden patterns, addictions, or sabotaging belief. And it could start at, like I said, an isolation phase or a phase where your mental health goes through a very hard time. You could be feeling cut off from external validations, and that's because Saturn here is trying to force you to learn to source your strength from spirit. Like I said, for a lot of you, this is a spiritual reset. It could be a complete awakening for some of you. Because of this, needing to retreat, reduce the noise, tend to your spiritual and mental health is very important. You're also going to things like you're going to want to really have a spiritual routine or spiritual tools at your service. Some of you can even be hiring some kind of help through this, whether it's a coach, a therapist, a shaman, a priest, a counselor. You get the idea, a tarot reader, an astrologer, a breathwork person, all of this stuff. You could even be going through all of those within the next 2.5 years. So it's a really big time where all of these actually will help you. Remember this in the next 2.5, 3 years. Things like meditation as well, spending a lot of time alone. Some of you may need to learn to be alone, therapy, intuitive work, etc. So Saturn here is really clearing the space before a big rebirth. It's asking you to do the deep work now so that when it goes eventually into your next house, you truly are going to rise. Even if you find the next few years spending a lot of time alone, it's actually incredibly empowering because you're going to emerge. It's almost like even if you feel like you've had a spiritual awakening, you're going to emerge with a stronger sense of that, with a deeper relationship with the divine, with a deeper relationship to your intuition, and a deeper relationship to what you're able to manifest. If you want to explore this more specifically in your chart, and what Saturn is asking you to prepare for and what you can do to help ease the load off Saturn, which means it will ease the chaos it might initially bring into your life and go more to the reward part very fast. You're welcome to book a one-on-one reading with me where we can dive into that and more into your chart. If you have any questions as well about your Saturn, your sign, things you could be feeling, you can feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thank you. Hi, Gemini, rising, suns, and moon. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. Saturn enters Aries on May 24th, which means that for the past few weeks, Saturn has been in the critical degree, the anaretic degree, the final degree of Pisces. So you've been feeling this. What's actually interesting is Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces, so it's going to be having this back and forth energy. So it's very important for you to watch the intro if you skipped it. I'll be linking a video that I reference in the intro to give you more information about this Saturn in Pisces energy in the description and the comments below, and it'll help you actually in the next few months to understand this energy as we're going in between these phases. So the past few weeks with Saturn being at the critical degree of Pisces has likely stirred up for you things to do with career, identity in that sense, purpose, leadership, or a sense of stagnation. You could have been asking, is this really what I want to be known for? Is this the legacy that I'm building? It could have brought clarity through some of that discomfort. Here's the thing though, some of you could have actually been on the reward end of that, meaning that some of you could have been going through all of that for the last 2.5, 3 years. And the last 2 weeks have either brought a breakthrough point, have brought the reward of the changes you made, of the structure you've applied, of the new commitments, of the responsibility you've had here. Or for those of you who have been ignoring a lot of those lessons, and not getting the message that Saturn was trying to bring to you, it could have brought like a culmination of that energy, like an exploding volcano, to make you more aware. And here's the thing, like I said, it's going to be the first of 3 times that Saturn will revisit this karmic turning point for you. So pay attention to the decisions you're making now when it comes to career, purpose, leadership, your life path, your output, all of these things, and also your reputation, things you've learned, things you wish you did differently, and where you could be applying more commitment. Even though Saturn may ease up a little because it's going into Aries now, but again, you will be asked to revisit these things. Now, with Saturn then going into Aries, this makes the vision of your future now getting more serious after all the things you've learned with Saturn going through your house of career and reputation. Which means that Saturn, the planet of structure, leadership, responsibility, karma, it's going into the house that's about your dreams. It's about who you're aligned with. It's about whether or not your connections support your soul's mission. It's about community. It's about your place in society. So for the next 2.5 years, key themes and possible experiences could be possibly outgrowing friendships, especially those based on old versions of yourself. Could be feeling called to lead a community, build a network, start a network, or serve something larger than yourself. It could be asking you to have a more sober or strategic or responsible approach to your long-term goals. And you may finally need to get serious about a dream, realize it needs structure, or realize if it's time for you to abandon it and have a different dream. This is a time where you're going to be investing in your future self, even if with Saturn being there, it takes work for it to manifest. And if you're feeling isolated or unsupported as Saturn tests this part of your life, it's because it wants you to match your connections with your internal evolution. This is a time for you to get serious about your connections, your place in society, community, your dreams. And it's a time to refine your purpose, to get clear on the impact you want to have, to make sure you're aligning with the people and movements that reflect your truth, and to really call in your soul tribe. If you want to know more about where Saturn is activating in your natal chart specifically and what you can do to help bring about these change with as easy energy as possible, you're always welcome to book a one-on-one reading with me. We'll dive into that, and you have the option as well to merge tarot with that. You can leave a comment if you're already feeling the shifts in your friendships, networks, goals, or if you have questions. I read all the comments, and I'm happy to help you in the comment section as well. Okay, take care. Hello, Cancer, Cancer rising, Cancer suns, and Cancer moons. I'm still a bit sick, so please pardon my congestion and difficulty breathing, but welcome to your Saturn into Aries forecast. Saturn moves into Aries on May 24th, starting a 2.5 to 3 year cycle of energy and lessons and crumbling of old structures and rebuilding of new ones and commitment and all of these great things. If you've missed the intro, you're going to want to go back and watch it because Saturn will be retrograding in July, and it's going to have this back and forth energy. And you're going to want to understand what that means for you, because when Saturn moves things in someone's lives, it does not go unnoticed. I'll also be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description in the comments. It's still super relevant until February 2026, as Saturn is ping-ponging between these signs. So the last few weeks, we've seen Saturn at the 29th degree of Pisces, the critical degree. And for you, this could have brought spiritual awakening moments. This could have brought spiritual disillusionments or breaking of that. It could have brought brought new belief system changes, crises of meaning, very important and profound travel in your life. You could have met someone foreign that's had an impact of you. You could be having some religious or spiritual change. You could have moved somewhere foreign or been called to start an immigration process. You could have been thinking of living somewhere else or gone at a retreat or something like that. Now, if you've been at the I always say, trademark Phoenician Priestess, Saturn at the critical degree in general, but at the critical degree will either bring the most intense reckoning or will bring the really big reward, depending on how much of the lessons you've been integrating and how much you've been listening to Saturn in the last 2.5, 3 years. Saturn, the more and more you don't listen to Saturn, the more and more it will bang at your door until you have no choice but to listen. And if you do listen, then it eases up in how it teaches you the lessons and responsibilities, and it loves to reward you for listening to it. Saturn is the planet of karma and authority, time as well, and loves structure. So if you've been questioning your faith, your long-term vision, your educational path as well, for some of you, if you've been thinking about going back to school, etc., or felt a collapse of certainty about what the future is supposed to look like, this could have all been the critical degree being active in this point. Just know that it will pass through it again this is the first of 3 times in the next few months. So even though we are going into Aries, it's not the end of that, of all these lessons for now. So either it's going to come again in rewards or again in opportunity to show Saturn the lessons you've learned. But on May 24th, Saturn will then ingress into Aries. And that is going to bring major career and legacy upgrades for you. And it can also extend to life purpose, visibility, the public eyes on you, your reputation, responsibility, leadership, etc. Which means it might take work, maturity, long-term commitment, and with it being in Aries, action, risk-taking. Okay. And actioning the changes out that way. So what this means is expect themes like taking on greater responsibility in your public life, whether through new leadership roles, increased visibility, advancement. Expect it to be also, if you've been hesitating on taking a risk in your career, or you start getting an idea like that in the next 2.5 years, now's the time to make that risk, to do the action, to start, to be bold, Aries energy. If you've been feeling tested or restricted around your goals, your status, your recognition, that's a theme as well. If you've been rethinking what your definition of success is and whether it's actually built on solid ground, that's a theme as well. You'll be shedding false ambitions that were more about others' expectations than your own purpose. You're going to be feeling a pressure to prove yourself, not through flash or speed, but through sustained effort and integrity. Some of you may be changing careers, getting promoted, hitting a wall, getting suddenly fired, but that's because Saturn is here to lead you to something way greater. Trust yourself, trust the universe, and trust Saturn. Some of you could be getting more visible, going viral, getting more public. It's all part of the longer path towards your true mastery and meaningful contribution. And this transit is really asking you to get real about what you're building and who you are when it comes to leadership in your own life, your purpose, your career, and who you are when the spotlight is on. Some of you will already be feeling this energy. And if you aren't, then you're going to be feeling it more the more we go into this transit. So always refer back to this video to help understand. And along the way, we're going to have more Saturn videos to help you as well. Also, if you want to see more and get more details and be more prepared on where Saturn and what Saturn is triggering in your personal chart, as well as the clear lesson that it wants you to learn and guidance around your career, your visibility, your purpose, your publicity, your leadership, you can book a one-on-one reading with me. And we can also, if you want to, pull tarot and intuitive support and downloads into that as well. Drop a comment if you have any questions, or if you've already started feeling this career weight or a calling into something else. I truly read all of them, and I really love hearing how this could show up for you. Okay. Thank you. And don't forget to watch for your other big placements too. Hello, Leos, suns, moons, and risings. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast and video. On May 24th, Saturn will ingress, which means enter Aries, and this will start the beginning of a 2.5 year cycle, 2.5 to 3. Which means that right now, the time of recording and hopefully releasing this video. And in the last few weeks, Saturn has been at the anaretic degree, the final degree, the critical degree, the 29th degree of Pisces. So there's been a very intense energy that Saturn's been bringing into your life here. As it shifts back. Now, here's the thing. Saturn will repass that degree actually 2 more times. So this is the first of 3 times hitting the anaretic degree because Saturn will be retrograding soon. So because of that, you're going to want to watch the intro of this video because I explain that more and I give you the dates. I'll also be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description box as well as in the comments, which is still essential viewing up until February 2026 because it lays out the energetic backdrop that's still active. Okay, so the last few weeks for you, Leo, with Saturn being at the critical degree, has probably, depending on if you've been at the reckoning path or the reward path of Saturn in its story arc for you. Reckoning or reward is a Phoenician priestess trademark for Saturn. If you hear anyone else say it, just know you heard it here first. Yeah, depending on where you've been, if you haven't been listening to Saturn's lessons the last 2.5 years, it would have been brought like a final reckoning energy, a shaking energy of, oh my God, I've been trying to teach you this and you're not listening to me. So I'm going to like raise the energy and really put the lessons in your face. Kind of vibe. But if you've been listening to it, if you've been in tune with it, if you've been bringing that commitment and devotion and structure, responsibilities, boundaries, karma that Saturn wanted you to bring, then you'll be at the reward section. And you would have felt that the last few weeks. Depending on where that's been, it would have brought up themes of deep emotional entanglement, shared resources, tension, karmic grief, or immense healing, immense transformation, alchemization, soul connection, soul bond, sexual depth, passion, intimacy. Some of you could have felt loss, vulnerability, or emotional debt, like something or someone was draining your energy or like an energetic contract needed closing. Some of you could have been really worried about money, taxes, loans. Some of you could have had a trauma come up for you to heal or could have, heaven forbid, gone through some kind of a loss or a grief or a trauma. Some of you could have felt like, ugh, I'm finally healed and I'm finally seeing it, or could have met someone to help you heal your trauma, or could have had this like big breakthrough when it came to spirituality or depth or your healing or your sensuality, or a sensual, passionate experience. And again, that will come up again in the next few months, with the back and forth of that energy. But then, like I said, now we're on May 24th, you enter the shifting phase because then Saturn will enter Aries, which will trigger your 9th house, which means then after all of this death and rebirth energy that you've been going through in the last 2.5 years, that could have honestly felt very energetically and emotionally hard, your beliefs will start to be rebuilt brick by brick. Your life view will start to be rebuilt. This is about you getting serious, getting honest, getting in integrity, getting truthful, getting in commitment, getting into embodiment of what you stand for when it comes to truth, ethics, faith, your personal philosophy, spirituality, religion. For some of you, higher education, certifications, long-term studies. For some of you, long-distance travel, long-distance relocation, long-distance challenges or new responsibilities that are tied to international work, international travel, traveling. For some of you, it could be publishing, writing, becoming an authority in your field. For some of you, it could mean starting to nomad. It could mean moving abroad. It could mean dating someone who lives in a foreign land. But all of the rewards for all of that will come only after deep inner alignment. Saturn here in the next 2.5, 3 years will ask you, what do you believe in when it's hard? What's worth committing to for the long haul? What do you really believe? And it will also ask you to view the world and restructure it in your mind. A lot of you, this is a placement. It's one of the Excuse me, I'm still quite sick, so breathing through my nose is hard. It's one of the placements that can bring about spiritual awakening and reckoning in that sense. And that can really change your life. For a lot of you, this could really just be the spiritual awakening, life philosophy, politics, religion thing where you're totally going to change in that regard. You could already be feeling it now, or watch this video again in 2.5, 3 years, and you could be like, oh, wow, she was right. I did change a lot. For others of you, it could be more about the physical. So meaning like something writing to do with writing, publishing, higher education, hiring an astrologer. This is a placement that will get you more into astrology or tarot and spirituality, learning esoteric things, getting serious about traveling, nomading, living abroad. You could get really into that or these things. So it's an exciting time because your energy, because it's so expansive of curiosity in the mind where it's hitting here, you and how you show up in terms of your mind, your energy, etc., will look so different in 2.5 to 3 years. And you'll start feeling that almost instantly. So if you want to know more about what Saturn is asking you to master or how this will affect your worldview, your spiritual path, your connection to spirit, to God, to your intuition, your education, where you're going to live even, you're very welcome to book a one-on-one reading with me. I'll look at your chart and we can even bring in tarot guidance as well if that's something that you want to add on. Let me know in the comments if you're already feeling the urge to redefine your beliefs, if you're already having a spiritual awakening energy, if you're in a dark night of the soul. That's often how Saturn in the 9th house can start. So don't worry. It's a very energetically intense time often when it starts. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thank you. And don't forget to watch for your other placements. Hello, Virgo risings, Virgo suns, and Virgo moons. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. On May 24th, Saturn ingresses into Aries, which is going to be activating a very intense part of your chart for the next 2.5 to 3 years. But don't you worry, it's not bad or scary. Although there could be definite moments of hardship and intensity depending on how far you are from where Saturn needs to take you. If you've missed the intro, you're definitely going to want to go and watch it because nothing I say is ever not important in these videos. But because Saturn will actually be, excuse me, I'm still sick. I think it's just going to be a state for a while. So please excuse me, especially because Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces in the fall before coming back into Aries for good. So you're going to want to know the dates of that, the cycles of that, and that's all in the intro. I will also be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video below in the description box and in the comments, which is especially important for you because it'll be returning to the exact area it's been restructuring in your life the last 2.5 to 3 years. So with Saturn entering Aries on May 24th, this means that for the last few weeks, Saturn has been hovering over the 29th degree, the critical degree of Pisces. The critical degree, the 29th degree, also known as the anaretic degree, is very intense because it's an energetic culmination point. And for you, it's bringing up a lot of energy when it comes to the lessons you've been forced to learn about relationships for the last 2.5 to 3 years. So you've likely felt somehow a deep turning point, and depending on where you are in your Saturn arc journey when it comes to relationships. So I say with Saturn, especially at the points of the critical degree, it's either about, this is trademark Phoenician Priestess, either about the reckoning or the reward. Saturn loves to reward you for listening to its lessons. But if in the last 2.5 years, you've been ignoring what Saturn has been trying to teach you, then it being at the critical degree is the reckoning point. Okay. And then sometimes there's in the middle, meaning that okay, you at first weren't listening to Saturn's lessons when it was transiting this part of your chart, but then towards the end, you finally started to listen, but you're not maybe ready yet for the rewards. So the critical point could bring up moments where you get tested to see if you're applying it. And so it has a lighter energy than if you haven't been listening at all. If you haven't been listening at all, then it's going to try to get you. It's like going to be banging at your door. You cannot run from Saturn. Saturn is the planet that represents authority, structure, commitment, discipline, getting serious about things, karma as well, clarity, truth, all of this stuff. And for the last 2.5, 3 years, it has been transiting through your house to do with relationships, marriage. When I say relationship, I mean serious relationship. Normally associated, I mean with marriage, life partners, serious commitments, serious partnerships, love. Excuse me. But for others, it could also be on a very smaller amount of you. It could also be business partnerships, business collaborations. It could also be contracts. And it could also be like soulmate style friendships. So what this looks like. Sorry, hang on. So, Virgo, what it means when Saturn transits the 7th house, it means, for the last 2.5, 3 years, you've been having so many lessons about relationships, about love, about marriage, about commitment. For some of you, and normally when Saturn starts its transit in a house, so maybe the start up to the middle, even longer, depending on if you start listening to the lessons or not, like Saturn tends to come with some kind of chaos. So you could have been learning a lot of hard lessons about love. What the kind of love you really want is, how you show up in commitment, the balance between independence and dependence. Are you in the right relationship? What kind of relationship do you really want? How are you actually showing up for that? Are you healed enough? Are you being good enough? And you would have had a lot of lessons and reckoning moments, and you could have had to also answer for past karma, or good karma could have also come forward for you. And depending on how you handled a lot of those lessons, you could, that could have changed the outcome as Saturn kept moving through your 7th house. So for some Virgos, you could have experienced big breakups that impacted you, divorces, or lots of kind of like karmic entanglements, situationships to try and teach you lessons about your boundaries, what you really want in a relationship. Are you ready? How to treat people, for how you want to be treated, the kind of person you really want, waiting for the right person, not settling, all these things. Where have you not been showing up properly? So a lot of you could have gone through a lot of those breakups and lessons, and it should have tried to teach you the right things. Some of you then could have had opportunities put on your face, to have the right partner. And that could have been, for some of you, the reward. Like, you finally learned the lessons, had the right commitment, got serious about it. Saturn in the 7th house means getting serious about relationships, getting serious about commitment. Oftentimes when we see Saturn transit through the 7th house, by the time it leaves the 7th house, a lot of people get engaged, get married, meet the love of their life, move in with them. But that's only if they've done the work, right? Sorry, Virgos, we were cut off, and then because of my camera, and then I literally went to dance practice for a few hours, and now we're back. Okay, yeah. So for some of you Virgos, it's going to be continued reckonings. So some of you, in terms of the lessons that you've been learning, amplified in the last month, maybe if you're on the lesson side versus the reward side, maybe it's things like, who did I let go of that I shouldn't have let go of? Where did I mess up when I shouldn't have messed up? Wherein if you haven't been taking love and commitment seriously, if you haven't been answering to your karma there, if you haven't been looking at yourself and growing there, then this period when Saturn was at the critical degree in Pisces was really trying to knock on your door and give you another chance. Here's the thing. If you still didn't answer that calling, like I said, this is the first of 3 times that Saturn will cross the critical degree in Pisces. So you're probably going to have another chance in September, or building up the next few months, another chance after. So the more and more you ignore these lessons in getting serious about love and relationships, the more it's going to come at you. And how you handle that is very important, because astrology is about free will. So you could be on the spectrum in terms of learning your lessons and getting serious about love, where, for example, if you're avoidant, if you let someone go that the universe actually thought was a good partner for you and sent you them, or if you treated someone badly, it's giving you a chance to self-reflect. On the other hand, if you were treated badly, if you let someone treat you badly, if you were in an imbalanced relationship, if you were giving more than you were receiving, if you allowed your boundaries to be crossed, you're also, again, learning those lessons. If you're on the reward side of that, where maybe more towards the Saturn return, you got all those lessons and you took things away from them, and you got serious, you actually got serious, you listened to the direction Saturn was sending you, then around the time Saturn was ending its transit in Pisces, going towards the end, you would have started getting the reward. Better luck with love, probably met someone, probably things getting serious. So this Saturn crossing at the critical degree for you could have meant meeting someone, or getting to the next level, saying I love you, being intimate for the first time, or them talking about engagement, marriage, kids, meeting your parents. And the fact that, again, this is the first of 3 times that Saturn will cross the critical degree in Pisces, it's like each time will be a level up. Now, if you were on the reckoning side versus the reward side, don't worry, you're going to have a chance to fix it. But I would do that before Saturn forever leaves your 7th house. It doesn't mean, by the way, if by the end of Saturn leaving your 7th house, you're still single, don't worry. That's fine. That's just one of so many other big love marriage transits. Okay. There are so many other. To find out yours, we can have a one-on-one reading. This just prepares you for it. This is the time where you're getting a lot of lessons. So even if by the time this transit is fully in Aries in February 2026, you still haven't met the one, don't sweat it. This time is preparing you for it. If you have and you messed up, this is your time to fix it. If you thought you did, but they messed up with you, this is your time to not let that happen again. And if you've done all the work, this is the time that you may actually be getting rewarded for it. Okay. And so on May 24th, like I said, then Saturn will ingress into Aries, and then July, it'll go retrograde again. And then in September, it goes back into Pisces. And then in February, it goes back into Aries. So it's back and forthing. And so when it this goes into Aries for you, it's going to be talking about getting serious. It's almost like the next level. If 7th house is soulmate and marriage and kind of joining on earth, the 8th house is about joining in spirit. The 8th house is about the souls merging. The 8th house is about truly the merging of two souls, carnally, spiritually, passionately. I always say it's like Gomez and Morticia Adams energy. It's truly, truly a time of very intense deepening. That focus goes deeper. It's about energetic merging, soul contracts, emotional transparency, financial entanglements. The forecast for when Saturn is going through Aries for you is about deepening intimacy. That means if it's real, if you ended the 7th house transit with a partner, then it gets more serious. It's about emotional boundaries, who gets access to your energy and why. And outside of that part, it could also be about facing fears of abandonment, control, loss, or vulnerability, and learning how to stand in your emotional power. It could also be about shared finances, debts, inheritances, or business investments that come into focus. For example, if you rely on someone, like if you are in a situation where someone has to help you with money, like your parents or your partner, a Saturn going through the 8th house, because it's about shared finances as well as all the deep intimacy stuff. It says, hey, time to get serious. So maybe it comes in to teach you to get serious about that and not necessarily do that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but to get more independence financially, vice versa. It could also make you get serious about supporting someone, maybe like your kids or something. Or maybe handling your inheritances, handling your will. This is also a profound healing transit, because the 8th house is about shadow work. It's about transmutation of dark to light, healing, all of that, rising from the ashes. And so it asks you to get serious and to add structure to your healing, to face anything you haven't been facing. It's a great time to do therapy, to do coaching. If you need someone, I actually have my main thing is mental health coaching practice and relationship. That includes relationship coaching. Anyway, and it's also about clearing anything to make you better supported. So Saturn here rewards you when you do the emotional and energetic cleanup, and when you commit to intimacy that's rooted in mutual depth, not in fantasy. It can also get very serious about healing any sexual traumas, sexual blocks. Some people can get really into studying Tantra in this time, or sex magic, things like that. Getting serious about how you're using your sexual energy. So if you've been very sexually leaky, Saturn transiting to your 8th house wakes you up about that and like helps you kind of fix it. And remember I said as well that if you left the 7th house transit and you're still single, but you did all the work finally by the last time it passed over the critical degree, because the 8th house is about soul contract, even about sometimes past life people returning to you. It's about that intense, real soulmate energy. That's another opportunity then for you, if you've done the work, for a potential soulmate to come in. And that would be a very passionate soul merging type of bond. Yeah. So if you want to know specifically how this applies to your chart and what kind of intimacy, healing, or soul growth or financial impact Saturn will have when it's transiting your 8th house in Aries, you're very welcome to book a one-on-one reading, and I can look at your transits in detail. And we can also mix in some tarot if you want for deeper insight. But comment below if you're already feeling the weight or feeling the clarity of your relationship path, whether it's ending, beginning, evolving, you're in the reckoning, you're in the reward. I totally read and love every story I share. And if you need any advice or tips below, you can let me know. Okay, Virgos, on to Libra. Do not forget to listen to your sun, moon, and rising. Hello, Libras. Excuse me. Hello, Libras. Libras rising, suns and moons. I am sick, so as usual, sadly, so please forgive me. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. Saturn is entering Aries on May 24th, and it is lighting up your house of your 7th house, of partnerships, contracts, marriage, and one-on-one dynamics. This is going to be massive for you for the next 2.5 years. But please do not skip the intro, because Saturn is not staying in Aries, even though it just entered here. It's actually going to be retrograding back in Pisces. So it won't fully return to Aries and stay there until February 2026. So there's this back and forth energy, which means the lessons that you've been learning the last 2.5 years that have really amplified energetically somehow in the last month, while Saturn was at the critical or anaretic degree, which is the 29th degree of Pisces, which has stirred up and culminated a lot of the energy. It means those lessons are not fully gone. They're going to come back. You've been feeling it a lot, and they're going to come back again. So go listen to the intro to understand that those dates. I'll also be linking my Saturn in Pisces Direct video, which I made November of 2024, in the description in the comments, because it actually still applies until February 2026 with all this back and forth energy. And it is essential to understand the full story behind this karmic shift. So in these last, sorry, I'm still sick. In these last, we're going to try not to edit a lot. In these last few weeks of Saturn at 29 degrees of Pisces, if you've been on the, how things will look different for you depending on if you've been on the reckoning story arc or the reward story arc. That's what I call it. It's my Saturn terminology. So trademark Phoenician Priestess. Of the Saturn transit, because Saturn has been going through your 6th house for 2.5 years. So you've been facing these lessons for 2.5 plus years. How much you've been facing these lessons to do with your health, to do with your daily work life, to do with your routines, to do with your work-life balance, for some of you to do with pets, for some of you to do with burnout, boundary breakdowns, stress, for how much you've been listening to those lessons, how much you've been bringing structure, how much you've been committed, how much you've been getting serious about it. If you've been committing to all of these things, then Saturn will be at the reward story arc for you. If you are somewhere in the middle, then Saturn would have been testing you to see if it should reward you somehow. And then on May 24th, Saturn then entered your 7th house, right? Let's make sure we're recording. Okay, yes, we are recording. I feel like these last few weeks, there's always one sign where we have these tech issues. And in that video, I feel like I'm always a little bit unhinged. So for you, Libra, I'm sorry it's happening. And I am a Libra sun, so it breaks my little heart. So, all right, here we go. So now, and then May 24th, Saturn will ingress into Aries. It will then go retrograde in July, and then it'll go back to Pisces, and then back into Aries in February. So there's this back and forth energy a little bit. Now, when Saturn ingresses into Aries, this is going to be a very big deal for you in the next 2.5 to 3 years, because Aries is not only an angular house, which triggers all the other angular houses in your chart, aka life-changing stuff, but it is your 7th house, which is the focus. That 7th house shifts the focus to relationships, to what's real, what's mature, what's worth building long term. Saturn here doesn't just test partnerships, it can also strengthen and reward them, but only if they're built on truth and mutual respect. So possible themes, if you're in a relationship, it would be solidifying a long-term relationship, getting engaged, getting married, or committing more deeply. But also if you're not in the right relationship, it could be releasing lack of reciprocity, lack of alignment, lack of integrity. Or if something in your relationship needs work, it could be redefining partnership for you and forcing you to work through all the wounds that are stopping your relationship from being better. If you're single, whether you're single because you've been pushing love away, you've been pushing the right partner away, you messed up treating how you treated someone in the past, or you're single because you haven't been attracting partners who are serious, you've been letting yourself getting treated poorly, or you're single because you just don't want to be in a relationship, then Saturn is coming here to actually ask you to get serious about relationships. It'll be teaching you to attract more serious partners, people who mirror your maturity, not your fantasy. It'll be asking you to take a more grounded, discerning approach to dating, even to clients and to contracts. It'll, for some of you, maybe be pushing you to feel lonely or to feel emotional pressure that will push you to upgrade how you show up in love, how you're treating people, how vulnerable you can be, and how seriously you're taking relationships and the right person. If you've messed up in the past, may give you an opportunity to fix that so you can attract the right love, or to go back and win back who maybe you want to win back. So either way, there's going to be a greater awareness for you of the mirror effect in relationship, how others reflect the parts of you that need healing or need honoring. It will ask you who you're choosing to grow with, or why you're choosing growth with. For a lot of you, by the end of Saturn transiting through Aries in the next 2.5 to 3 years, you may literally go from single to married. This could happen within that. It could happen at the end of that. Some of you will go through a breakup, and then you could meet the right person by the end of it, which I've seen. Some of you could have, messed up, and then it's your chance to fix it and you get back with someone. Truly, like, really big life upgrades. And a lot of people I know end up married by the end of this transit, or end up meeting the right one. And if you don't, then don't worry. First of all, it's 2.5 to 3 years, but it will really prepare you for that. Now, if you want to know what specifically Saturn is activating in your chart, and if you're one of the ones that will likely be meeting your soulmate or getting married, then it'll be reflected for that to happen. It'll be reflected in multiple other parts of the chart. You can book a one-on-one reading with me. I'll explore your transits. We can also use tarot, but I can also see with astrology the blocks in this particular lessons for you to learn and work through for that to happen. Drop a comment below if you're already feeling these relationship shifts, these boundaries, or these longing for commitments. I read all the messages. Please forgive me for being a bit unhinged in this reading because of me losing the last video. I hope you enjoyed this. There will be many other Saturn videos coming because this is a long transit. So every time there's a big aspect to this, we'll talk about it. And don't forget to watch the Saturn video I'm linking in the comments and in the description box, because that will also be relevant for you. Hello, Scorpio rising. Welcome to your Saturn entering Aries video. Saturn will enter Aries on May 24th, which will activate your 6th house of routines, of health, of service, of daily work, and of self-mastery. Be sure to watch the intro if you haven't, because Saturn is doing lots of wild retrograde energy, hopping back and forth. You're going to want the details for that. And because of that, detailed in the intro, I'll be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description and comments, and this will be a crucial part of the overall storyline that's still in play until February 2026. Now, over the past few weeks, Saturn has been at 29 degrees of Pisces, which is the critical degree, the anaretic degree, and it's a very cumulative energy feel. So depending on if you've been learning the lessons that Saturn has been trying to teach you in your 5th house for Pisces, the last 2.5 to 3 years, you could either be on the reckoning story arc, you could be at the kind of in-between story arc, or the reward story arc. If you've been at the reward story arc, well, okay, let's start with the reckoning. If you've been at the reckoning story arc, that means you've been ignoring a lot of the seriousness, commitment, structure, karma, discipline, responsibility that Saturn has been trying to bring up, maybe to do with your creativity, your romance, your flings, your relationship with joy, your relationship with creating, your relationship with self-embodiment, with entrepreneurship, with children and your inner child. Then Saturn could have stirred up grief, romantic disillusionment, emotional fatigue around self-expression, around joy. If it's about having kids, Saturn could have been making you go through lessons about what it means to maybe connect with your own inner child, or fixing things you have to fix with fertility within your body to prepare for the next step. So you could have felt disconnected from your pleasure, unsure how to create, to be creative, or to trust love, or like an old heartbreak or confidence wound or expression wound resurfaced, or a wound about motherhood, fatherhood, being a parent, children, your own inner child, etc. And then Saturn brought these up for you to heal. If you've been on the reward side of that, where you've gone through a lot of that the last 2.5, 3 years, but you've actually taken the steps Saturn wanted you to take, then you could suddenly be feeling it could have been like the reward coming in. Maybe you ended up pregnant. Maybe you've had a big romance that really made a difference. Maybe you started a business. Maybe your creative project really took off. Maybe you're living a life full of joy after going through all these lessons, the 2.5, 3 years. And then with Saturn going into Aries, you're actually being asked to get radically honest and serious about your habits, your health, your work-life balance, your well-being, and how you show up for yourself. This transit for the next 2.5 to 3 years is going to be all about self-discipline as a spiritual path. Saturn here will want to help you build the kind of structure that supports your long-term vitality. This can look like in the next 3 years, committing to new health routines, healing protocols, or scheduling systems. It could be about realizing where your energy is leaking, whether through burnout, people pleasing, or overwork. This is a time that will bring you your karma if you've been neglecting your body, your health, your daily work-life balance, or what service means to you. You'll be becoming also more discerning about how you serve others without losing yourself, learning boundaries, realizing where your energy leaks, with people pleasing, overworking, burnout, etc. Some of you could be feeling tested by overwhelm, fatigue, or illnesses, or what looks like health crises, but do not fret, because Saturn is only doing that to help you show what needs to change in your life. So it'll also give you the tools and the focus to overcome it. So this is really a time for you to build your daily life into a container for mastery, service, and grounded magic. Saturn in the 6th house is not here to punish you. Saturn loves to reward you. It loves to reward discipline and consistency and alignment. And so you can show that power of alignment day by day. A lot of people with Saturn in the 6th house also can improve their health once they apply that Saturnian energy to it. They can also, a lot of people will lose weight. A lot of people will get super focused, get more organized. If you want to particularly see what Saturn is activating in your personal chart, especially around your body, your work, or your spiritual discipline, you could book a one-on-one reading with me and we can go deep into that. But comment below if you're already feeling the call to clean up your schedule, your life, your health, your daily routine, or your habits, or if you need any tips below. Okay, thank you. And don't forget to watch for your other placements. Hello, Sagittarius, suns, moons, and risings. Welcome to your Saturn entering Aries video. On May 24th, Saturn will enter Aries, moving into your 5th house of self-expression, romance, flings, creativity, pleasure, joy, children, inner child, and even self-embodiment, and for some even entrepreneurship. If you haven't watched the intro, I definitely recommend it, so go back, because Saturn is doing lots of wild things the next few months. It'll go back into Pisces, which is why I'm also linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video, which I made last November, but will actually be very vital in understanding these next few months. Because it's still relevant. So I'm linking that down below and in the comments. For the past few weeks, Saturn has been at 29 degrees of Pisces, the very last degree before it goes into Aries. This is called the critical or the anaretic degree. So this means that all the things where Saturn has been put into focus for you the last 2.5 to 3 years, which have to do with family, your sense of home, your sense of emotional security. Sorry, I'm sick. I'm still sick, so it's a bit hard to talk. Where you live, your housing situation, what home means to you, all of that stuff, even emotional echoes from childhood or the past. All of that, if you haven't learned the lessons Saturn has wanted you to learn, then that could have been coming up for you in an energetically intensive way. If you have, but not quite, it could have been testing you for the final lessons. Or if you've really been applying Saturn's lessons, discipline, structure, boundaries, commitment, responsibility, and positive karma, then at the critical degree could be a time where you're actually seeing the reward pay off. So depending on where you are with that, you could have been feeling ungrounded, emotionally raw, nostalgic, like something needed to be released in order to build your sense of home or safety. Or some of you could have been moving homes, moving where you live, expanding your family, changing roommates, finding a place you really like, remodeling something, buying a home, visiting family, spending a lot of family, having good improvement with family, getting serious about family, and seeing the positive echoes of that. That's just the first of 3 passes through this critical degree. So these themes will continue to evolve until early 2026. Now, Saturn, again, we said is hip hopping. No, his hop. I don't know. Sorry, it's been a long day. It's hopping back and forth between signs. So when it moves into Aries, that's your 5th house, and that's where it's here to mature your relationship to joy, creation, love, and inner childhood and children. So this would be a chance for you to get serious and to commit to your creativity, or to take romantic matters more seriously, because even though the 5th house is actually about joy and kind of not being serious, but Saturn comes here and says, no, for some reason, you need to actually get serious about things, get serious about structure. For example, what this could look like is if you've been like actually totally ignoring the importance of having your inner child be alive, of experiencing joy, Saturn is here to be like, no, you need this in your life. If you've been ignoring healing your inner child, Saturn is here to be like, no, heal your inner child. If you've been ignoring creating your creativity, fixing your creative blocks, working through them, doing something with the creative gifts you have, Saturn is coming here to say, okay, let's add some structure and discipline and get serious about this. If you've been ignoring entrepreneurship, the next 2.5, 3 years could also be about getting serious about that. If Saturn, for some of those of you, it could be about starting a family or having children, because 5th house rules children. So if there are some things that need to be fixed in your life before bringing in children, Saturn will likely come in, fix that up, get you serious about your having children journey. And then by the end of the Saturn transit, within 3 years, you'll either be ready, or you could literally get pregnant, or you could get pregnant, have a child, have multiple by the end of the 3 years. So, you could be in one of those buckets. So really the forecast themes for the next 2.5, 3 years are about turning your creative talents into something structured, monetizable, or meaningful, are about committing to long-term passion projects, artistic paths, or creative discipline, are about feeling tested in romance. Saturn can bring soulmate level relationships or end partnerships that aren't rooted in truth, are about finding joy again, learning to trust joy again, healing inner child wounds without fear or loss of without fear or loss, or rejection, are about a more mature approach to dating, to parenting, to self-worth, are about pleasure that's earned through presence, not escapism. Kind of think of like sacred joy, not just fleeting highs. Are about having children, being a parent, and Saturn loves to reward those who are devoted to their inner spark, who are not afraid of doing the deep emotional work to sustain it. A lot of this energy too is about getting serious about self-embodiment and speaking your truth. So if you want to explore how exactly Saturn is shaping your life, whether it's your romantic life, your creativity, having fun, your entrepreneurship, or something to do with children, and what that journey is going to look like for you in the next 2.5 to 3 years, or what those blocks could be, we'll have to look at your natal chart, and you're very welcome to do that. You can book a one-on-one reading, or as well, if you have any questions, or you're already feeling the shifts in love and art and what lights you up in joy and creativity, drop a comment below. I read and appreciate all of them, and I love to see it. And don't forget to listen to your sun, moon, and rising, not just your rising and not just your sun. Okay. Rising is the most important. Hello, Capricorn, rising, suns, and moons. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries forecast. Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick, so please pardon my voice and possible breathing interruptions. So Saturn is entering Aries on May 24th, which is a big, big, big deal. To understand how big of a deal, go watch the intro. You're going to want to do that actually, because Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces, where it's been for 2.5 to 3 years very soon. And it's going to have a little bit of back and forth energy, which will impact your life heavily, because where Saturn moves, people notice in their lives. And so I explain all of that in the intro. I'm also going to be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video in the description in the comments. It's still very relevant, and it will tie directly to this back and forth nature of this transit up until around February 2026. Okay. Now for you, it's a big deal because it's going to be hitting one of your angular houses when it goes into Aries. And an angular house kind of tends to activate all the angles in the chart. So by the end of the next 2.5, 3 years, your life can look very different. And that's in a very level up way if you listen to the lessons Saturn is trying to teach you. Before that, over the past 2 weeks, Saturn has been at 29 degrees of Pisces, the very last degree before going into Aries. Now, depending on if you've listened to the lesson of Saturn, the last 2.5, 3 years, what it's trying to teach you, it's trying to teach you. It could have been trying to teach you about communication, about education, about siblings, a lot of things to do with siblings, about how you talk, about how you show up in tech, about travel tension, mental overload, how you think. If you've applied a lot of those lessons, if you've gotten serious about it, if you've fixed karma here, that's great. And you could be at the reward part of that. So for example, if you've launched creative projects, writing projects, that's great. If you've launched new social media, things could be going well. If you've improved your relationship with your siblings, things could be going amazingly. If you could have had really improved the way you think, the way you analyze, the way you communicate. If you haven't learned a lot of those lessons, then passing over the critical degree of Pisces means that it's bringing a reckoning moment where it's increasing the tension to try and get your attention. So Saturn is like giving you another chance. Now, this is just the first of 3 passes over this critical degree. Again, more info at the beginning. So there'll be a lot of the same energy as the last few weeks coming up again for you, and a chance to upgrade to the reward part if you're still at the reckoning part. That's my terminology, reward versus reckoning. So trademark Phoenician Priestess. Now, when Saturn moves into Aries, and again, it's going to be back and forthing between the signs, the focus will then actually shift to restructuring things inwards, to more emotional things, to your foundation, to your family systems, to your sense of home. This could be emotional, relational, or physical. Also to your emotional security, and for some of you, to your relationship with motherhood, whether that means you as a mother, or with your actual mother, or with the mother of your children, things like that. So this is going to be about building inner stability, even if it means letting go of external comfort. What may come up in the next 2.5 to 3 years, redefining home, whether it's moving, renovating, buying, downsizing, or taking on new responsibilities at home, or bringing in a roommate, etc. It could be deep emotional work around childhood, ancestral lineage, or family karma. It could be about fixing family relationships or family dynamics, or getting serious about family, or family needing your attention. It could be about taking on caregiving roles or healing patterns in the family system. It could be about emotional walls or heaviness and an opportunity to create real safety within yourself. It could be about establishing boundaries in your private life, especially with roommates, family, or close emotional ties. It could be a powerful chance to create a sacred container where your life could grow from a truly stable place. Saturn here wants you to bring some seriousness into how you've been approaching the concept of either family, home, or your emotional foundation, or again, what the relationship of the mother. And it wants to help you become the emotional adult that your inner child needs, or your sense of home that you need. And it will absolutely reward the work that you put into your inner foundation. So if you want to explore how Saturn will be structuring these parts of your life, whether it's your roots, your family patterns, your home life, where you live, who you live with, how you feel, etc., we can do that by looking at your chart if you want to do a one-on-one reading. Or drop a comment below if you are already feeling some of these shifts, or if you have a sense of direction of where it could take you. Remember, Saturn is all about asking you to be serious, is all about bringing karma forward, is all about getting rid of what doesn't align. So if you're not living in the right place, it will fix that. If there's a chance for you to level up and upgrade through deeper commitment, deeper maturity, deeper responsibility, it will make that happen. And sometimes things have to crumble in order to bring the good in. Hello, Aquarius, suns, moons, and risings. Welcome to your Saturn in Aries video. Saturn is entering Aries on May 24th, activating your 3rd house of thought patterns, communication, learning, siblings, and your local environment. If you skip the intro, definitely circle back, because Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces before returning into Aries for good. And I talk all about that and what that means, this back and forth of Saturn, because when Saturn moves, it's definitely going to be noticeable in your life. I want to say as well, you probably notice I'm sick, so please excuse my strange breathing and occasional coughing and congestion sounding. Okay, Now, the past few weeks, Saturn has actually been at the final degree of Pisces, which is likely stirring up some things for you. Depending on how much of Saturn's lessons you've actually taken and applied the last 2.5 to 3 years, you could be having a different story arc for the ending of Saturn transiting Pisces. Now, I call it, this is trademark Phoenician Priestess, Saturn's reckoning or reward when it's at the critical degree. So the critical degree is the final degree or the anaretic degree. And so if you haven't learned the lessons the past few years, then it could have been stirring up self-worth wounds, financial pressure, or reckoning about value and stability. You could have been having lessons that should have taught you how to budget or how to better manage your money or where to invest or to be more responsible when it comes to that. It could have brought up things to do with fixing limiting beliefs about finances and money. It could have brought up things to do with value. It could have brought up things to do with real estate. It could have brought up things to do with stock. You could have been questioning what you're truly worth, whether emotionally or materially, or felt the urge to prove yourself or finally let go of scarcity patterns. If you were at the reward aspect of this, you could have been making a lot of money after or hitting a good level of savings, or you could have been seeing how, wow, I've gotten really good at investing or trading or real estate. You could have bought real estate. You could have grown your investment portfolio. You could have made a lot of money. You could have improved your savings. You could be feeling good about it, or you could have a good routine in place. You could have fixed a lot of the limiting beliefs, and you could be at the point where you're reaping the rewards. After that, Saturn will be moving into Aries, and here it becomes time to get serious, to get committed, to get responsible, to bring discipline and structure when it comes to mastering your mind, how you think, to sharpen your voice, how you communicate, how you write, how you teach, how you talk, how you learn, and for some of you, how you share all of that with the world around you, including social media. This is the house that rules all of these things, how you express yourself, think, speak, etc. And so Saturn is here to clear the noise for the next 2.5 to 3 years and to refine that signal. For some of you, this could be taking on serious writing, teaching, or learning commitments, whether it's joining a course, a certification program, getting serious about teaching, or writing a book, or speaking, or taking a speaking course, or starting a YouTube channel, or starting an Instagram page, etc. Some of you could be feeling the need to communicate with greater intention or clarity. For some of you, this could be boundaries in conversation. So no more wasting energy on surface level talk or not expressing your true self. For some of you, this could be bringing up things to do with sibling. It could be a chance to fix your relationship with your sibling, to really be there for them, or your neighbors or your local community. For some of you, this could be asking you to slow down to build your ideas with structure and long-term vision, and to plan for that. For some of you, this could be facing fears to do with how you communicate, about being understood, about fitting in, about expressing yourself, and learning to express your truth with maturity. For some of you, this could be showing you where in your mindset or your voice you really need to restructure and work. And this is a really powerful time to build a new mental foundation, to shift out of reactivity and into conscious thought and deliberate expression. Very exciting. If you want to explore more on where Saturn exactly is helping that, or what certain blocks might be that you need to work through, we could do a one-on-one reading. The link for that to schedule one is in my profile. Otherwise, leave a comment below if you're already feeling these shifts, or if you have any question in how to understand this energy. I read and appreciate every word I see. It sometimes just takes me a little bit to respond during really busy times, but I read them really frequently actually after they're posted. Don't forget to listen to all your rising, your sun, and your moon, and to stay tuned for future Saturn videos, and to also watch the Saturn direct in Pisces video that I'll be linking below, because that's going to really help you as well in the next few months. Hello, finally, the last and best, I'm just kidding, sign of them all, Pisces. Welcome, Pisces risings, Pisces suns, and Pisces moons to your Saturn in Aries video. Now, this is a big deal for you because you've been getting hammered. Saturn in the first house is not an easy placement, and you've had that for the last 2.5 to 3 years. And then Saturn will be moving into Aries on May 24th. Which will move your focus to your second house of income, values, possessions, self-worth, net worth, material stability, assets, including real estate, stocks, etc. Now, if you haven't watched the intro, please go back, because Saturn will actually be retrograding back into your sign, Pisces, in September, before returning to Aries for good in early 2026. I have the dates and the details for that in the intro. I'll also be linking my Saturn in Pisces direct video from November 2024 in the description and comments below. And it's especially relevant for you because it speaks to the exact themes that Saturn will revisit in your rising sign in the next few months. So that video, you should watch that as well. It'll be relevant for you up until February 2026. Now, the last few weeks have probably been big for you because the last few weeks, Saturn has been at the very final degree of Pisces called the critical or anaretic degree. So depending on where you are in your Saturn journey, I like to call it, trademark Phoenician Priestess, Saturn's critical degree reckoning or reward story arc. What that means is the last 2.5 to 3 years, Saturn has been here collapsing everything that needs to collapse in your life to help you build the structures that you need to work on your identity. Maybe for some of you, your appearance, your body, your looks, how you show up, how you carry yourself, how you view the world, how the world views you, and what you go after in this life, your creed, your I am statement, your independence, your sense of individuality, all really big and heavy things. Now, if you've been applying these lessons, applying commitment, applying discipline, letting what needs to go, and building what needs to build, and committing to yourself, then you'll be at the reward arc of the story where you're gonna, the last maybe few weeks have actually felt really good for the first time in a long time in terms of your sense of self, in terms of you showing up for you, in terms of how you view yourself and how other people view you, and in terms of making strides and feeling more stable, secure here. If you're at the reckoning part of the story, where you've been ignoring a lot of these, then it could have been amplifying and culminating that energy. It could have felt heavy, existential, or emotionally raw. You could have experienced deep fatigue, identity crisis, or the sense that an old version of you was finally ready to dissolve. And that's because Saturn was stripping you down to your essence. And it could have given you opportunities to finally learn a lot of those lessons and move on. Now, that's only the first of 3 passes that Saturn will make over this sensitive point, the critical degree. So expect this identity shift to continue unfolding for you. If you're on the reward story arc, that means further rewards or maybe further opportunities to prove that you've learned those lessons, all the way up until early 2026. And then, like I said, Saturn is moving into Aries, which is your second house. And that's going to change the focus for the next 2.5, 3 years. You could see how, it's going to shift the focus to helping you rebuild your foundation from the ground up with more confidence, clarity, and integrity. And it's time for serious self-investment with money, with budgeting, with your values, with limiting beliefs to do with money, and showing up for that. You can see how you would have needed all these lessons the last 2.5, 3 years that had to do with your own identity, your self-worth, your self-confidence, your boundaries, showing up for yourself before moving into the house that has to do with money. Because in spirituality and astrology, your ability to make money is directly tied with your own self-values, your own self-worth, and your ability to be there for yourself. But a lot of people don't know that this is the second house actually can, in certain senses, talk about pleasure as well and sex, but in a more earthy, foundational way. Second house, after all, is ruled by Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so it brings a kind of Taurian sense, like energy to that. So for some people, it could be getting you serious about being in your body and feeling those things. And for a lot of people, it could be about restructuring finances, learning to earn, save, invest, or price yourself more confidently and sustainably. It could be asking you to work through money fears or scarcity stories, especially ones passed down through family or past lives. It could be asking you to get serious about making money, accumulating wealth, budgeting. If you've been avoiding, if you're one of those people, don't worry, I've been there, who hates looking at their bank account. It's like, okay, time to get serious. It could be asking you to not be like that, to get serious about investing. Some people think that Saturn transiting the second house means you're going to lose money. And while Saturn can be about restriction, so for some people, it could start that way. But for a lot of people, it's about getting serious, getting committed about it, and also reaping karma. Saturn is the planet of karma. So for a lot of people, you can actually gain money while Saturn transits the second house because it's giving you the tools to truly claim your value, to claim your self-worth, to claim being productive, to claim money itself, building a new relationship with not just resources, but your body as well, and the energy and all of that tied together. And so this is a time where Saturn is teaching you how to create tangible structures that really reflect your soul's worth, a budget, a business, a boundary, an investment plan, structure to bring money to increase your net worth. And again, it's not only just about net worth, it's about what you believe you're worth and whether your life reflects that truth. It's about what you value, what you commit to. And so that's what Saturn is here for. If you want to explore what Saturn is asking you specifically and how it's going to look specifically in your life, what your blocks could be energetically, what the lessons could be, you can book a one-on-one reading with me, and we'll walk through your chart in particular to prepare you for the next 2.5 to 3 years. It's going to be more like 3 years with this retrograde energy. Let me know in the comments if you've started to already feel the financial shifts, the self-worth upgrades, or the pressure, depending on where you are in your story arc. For some of you, it could mean that you're literally starting off already implementing new financial systems, getting more serious about money, and the new money could instantly start pouring in. For others of you, if you haven't been serious, Saturn can first be forcing something in your life to make you serious, so the rewards start pouring in. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to listen to your sun, your moon, and your rising. The rising will be the most accurate. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, bye.